another day, 2 days. Congratulations, you're still here. And I know, as usual, people will be streaming in as well. So this is another very important topic, and we're talking about the business of sustainability and green tech, the role in IP. Obviously, you've read the blurb. Who we've got with us today is Dr. Jayanthi Desan from Synergio, and she's the founder and managing director of Synergio, pronounce it correctly, one of Malaysia's leading sustainability strategy consultancies. She has a wide experience in the area of sustainability advisory and reporting, has worked extensively with governmental agencies, corporations, and NPOs in Malaysia and the region. And she's also an independent non-executive director of one of Malaysia's largest diversified conglomerates, where she has an oversight of over 150 subsidiaries, and she brings her sustainability lens to the board. We also have Sumah Ramachandran from Malaysia Biotechnology Corporation, and she joined the corporation, which is an agency under the purview of MOSTI, to be part of the dedicated professional team responsible for building and developing the bio-based industry in Malaysia. Very interesting as well, because it's a different game, in terms of bio, because plants sometimes they don't listen to you. And so at Malaysian Biotechnology Corporation, she leads the Intellectual Property Advisory Services Unit of the BioNexus Development Division, which amongst others provides advisory services mainly to startups and SMEs on a broad range of IP and commercialization related matters. So yes, like a lot of people here, she was also formerly a lawyer. And we're going to start out with her sharing a little bit about the whole process of what she does. And then we're going to be watching video, and then we'll open the floor for questions. So over to you.
Okay, thank you, Buddha. Okay. First and foremost, warm welcome to all those who kindly attended our session this afternoon. Okay, I have prepared some slides here. This is just guidance for our discussion, so feel free to ask questions as we go on, right? Okay, the title of my topic today is basically IP in green and clean technology. So I'm going to cover the IP angle when it comes to green or clean technology, for that matter. As most of us are aware here, IP is one of the key components of any business. It's more so in technology-based businesses. Okay, why are we saying IP is important? What is the need for IP? Okay, one is that it would give you legal protection for your own assets. Just like you have properties, tangible assets, you own it. So similarly, for intangible assets, there is also ownership. So as a company, as a technology-based company, if you own something, it adds more value to you in order for you to commercialize it. Okay, and also having an IP per se, what it does to you is that it does to your business is that it increases the competitive advantage. It gives you the competitive edge. What this means is that you hold the rights to the IP, so you deter your competitors from entering the market. Okay, that's another one. Another key factor for the need of having your own IP portfolio is that you will also easily attract investors. Investors, be it financiers, angel investors, venture capitalists, if you don't have your own IP, they kind of shy away because they don't think it's of much value, because they don't see you taking the effort to put in place the right mechanism to protect your IP. And of course, IP also protects and safeguards your investments. In a technology space, you put in a lot of money into R&D research, right? So in order to protect your investment, you will have to, it's a choice, it's not a mandatory position, but it's a choice. You have already put in investment, you would want to protect it. So one mechanism to do it is through IP. And of course, when you have your own IP, you can exploit it, you can monetize it. Okay, if you look at the trend, okay, initially in the 1970s and even before that, conventionally, businesses used to rely a lot on their tangible assets, as in lands, buildings, vehicles, machineries. But what you will note from the chart here is that over the years, intangibles have taken over tangibles. So it's a reversal role of the assets. So tangibles become less important as compared to intangibles. When we are talking about intangibles, it's your IP connected to your technology. So it's more of the knowledge, the know-how, your inventions, your data, and things like that. If anyone has any questions or any comments, just feel free to intercept. Okay, this is again IP life cycle in a nutshell. Working with SMEs, what I notice is that people don't even think about IP until it's a little too late to do it. So the thought of IP has to come at the early stage itself, at the stage of conception. So when you're looking at doing technology market and market assessment, you actually do some analytical studies. You do technology mining, you do technology road mapping, data mining and all that to see where exactly, what are the gaps, right? So that you don't overlap. If someone has done it before, it's okay to be in the same space. But the thing is, you would want to do an enhancement, not reinvent the wheel. Okay, so at that stage, early stage of conceptualization itself, you will have to start thinking about IP. Okay, then you move on, you have conceptualized, you've got a concept, then you look at formulating your IP strategy. Okay, when we talk about IP, a lot of people can only think of patents. Okay, we'll come to that in a little bit. But IP is a whole bundle of different types of assets, right? So again, you formulate it. Do you need to patent it, or could you keep it as confidential information, or do you want to do an open source invention? So this is some of the mechanism that you can put in place based on, again, your company's goals, your company's business goals. Okay, now zooming into the clean tech. Is IP in clean tech any different from IP in other sectors? Actually, it's not. Because IP, whether it's in clean tech or whether it's in pharmaceutical, it kind of assumes the same role. It's just that the mechanism would differ quite a bit. Okay, at the end of the day, it's all about innovation, improving the world, and getting return on investment. I mean, we all want to make some money out of our investment, right? So these are the key points. Talking about IP, the different types of IP, we have patents, we have trademarks, industrial designs, copyright, confidential information, and other forms of IP. For instance, we have the, for those from the traditional knowledge sector, or if it's a plant-based sector, we have got the plant variety protection. And we also have geographical indication. So there are many different types. Again, you will have to map this against your technology. This technology, I mean, there's no one size that fits all. So it has to be a customized IP strategy based on your business needs. It's not a standalone. When you do your IP strategy, it's not a standalone. You have to align it to your business strategy so that you maximize the value extraction. Again, like I mentioned, IP strategy is vital. If you want to derive value and retain the value of your IP strategy is vital. Okay, I'm not going to go into details because I mean this is just an overview. But if you have any comments, questions, please do ask. Okay, IP strategy, yes, IP protection. We look at IP protection, and then we look at how do we even enforce it? So what are the steps that we need to take? Do we actively do a market watch to see who is working in that sphere? What are our competitors doing? Whether there are any potential infringers? Okay, and also we use our existing IP to see whether we can leverage on it to enter into partnerships with other entities, because you can't do it all, because you have complementary and supplementary, because sometimes someone else has done it. Are you going to put in a lot of resources to reinvent it? Wouldn't it better to just work with somebody, get a license in? You know, it's a synergy. as well.
Your earlier slide, trade secrets in this area, in this field could be one. Because when I think of trade secrets, I know
Coca-Cola.
KFC got trade secret that 16 or I don't know secrets and herbs and spices. So in this context.
Okay, in the context of clean technology, like maybe you have your formulation. Okay, I'm not a technical person, as in a technical person in the clean technology. But what I could relate to is it's the formulation, maybe for the biofuel, the composition of the biofuel, or even the methodology to produce the biofuel. There are certain elements that when you file a patent, you try to disclose as much as needed, but you would not disclose everything. So there are certain elements you keep it as confidential information, right? So that's where your competitive edge comes in. Yeah, covered this as well. So again, the point is, what I would like to highlight here is for any technology-based business or any other business for that matter, IP strategy is vital, and you have got to align it with your business strategy.
Do you have examples of white space of people that you work with and they've identified this white space?
Yeah, I will come to a case study in a bit, right? So basically the key takeaway here, it's like in technology-based business, IP plays a key role, in bringing up the value of the business. The reason why I use legitimate IP, legitimate IP gives the business a competitive edge, right? If you don't have a legitimate IP, if you copy somebody's IP, it puts you at a risk. You could be doing so well just to get a lawsuit from somebody saying that. Sometimes you do it not knowingly, it's not intentional. Because a lot of businesses, like I said, just dive in without knowing what's out there, if it has been patented, So these are some of the steps that has to be looked at. And then again, to optimize the value extraction of the IP asset, you have to have a sound IP strategy, which is again aligned to your business. Okay. I will just share with you a case study, okay? Just give me a few minutes and I'll be done with this, okay? This is one of the companies under Malaysian Biotechnology Corporation. The company has been accorded the BioNexus status. Okay, the BioNexus status mainly gives a 10-year tax exemption incentives. Okay, it's not a status that's just given away. I mean, the company is assessed as long as they qualify, they meet certain requirements, then they are accorded the status. Okay, this company is actually involved with wastewater treatment. They have been doing this for the last 25 to 30 years. Okay, initially they started just with wastewater treatment. What has happened over the years? Okay, when I talk about wastewater treatment, let me just explain a bit more. They started treating the waste palm oil mill effluents. I'm not sure if you're familiar with palm oil mills. Some of you may be, some of you may not be so familiar. So palm oil mills, basically, they after they process the flesh fruit bunches, they come up with residues, the effluent, and it all resides in a pond. So usually, service providers like this, they would provide a wastewater treatment. Otherwise, it can stink. And then the residue, with the technology, what happens is that the residue is disintegrated. Okay, so this is a microbial-based technology. So they use microbes, which is found in nature. They amplify it and they would release it in the wastewater together with some other parameters. So they adjust the parameters to do it. Okay. What this company initially just started doing wastewater treatment, but over the years they also realized that just doing wastewater treatment was not going to get them far because there's a lot of competition in the market as well. So what they did is that they also looked at how to maximize the value, the value of the whole value chain of the wastewater treatment. When they do the wastewater treatment, one of the byproducts that they get out of creating the palm oil mill effluents is POBE in short, is that methane gas is released. Okay, when methane gas is released, usually they'll just they just burn it. But what they found out is that they can actually capture this gas and they can sell it. You see? Although it's a byproduct, it's not a main product because your revenue stream comes from providing the service for the wastewater treatment. But here you have a byproduct, but you can also capitalize, you can also monetize that. So what they did, this is their main business, but they have a side business as well. They capture the byproduct. What they did is that they captured it, and then they found two uses. One, they convert it to electricity, okay? And then they feed it into the grid, and they get incentives for that as well, okay? Because now we are all looking into clean technology, so that's that. And they're also working with a local university now to see if they can compress that gas, the methane gas, and use it as fuel for automobiles, okay? So when they started off, of course, they did not think of IP. Probably they did not even understand. But over the years, they've also realized when they started talking to investors, potential technology partners and all that, then they understood what's the value of IP, okay? And when you go and talk to people, you tell them, I have this fantastic technology, then ask, is it protected? Because otherwise, if I license it, I may be sued at the end of the day, so would I even want that? So then they slowly started to build out their IP portfolio. So this is basically for their system, the wastewater treatment system, and they've also got some components, some machineries as well. So the process is patented, some of the machines, okay, and yeah, the whole system, and then they've got, they've got the machineries here is the reactor design. They've got that protected as well. So it's not just, the patent here is not just for the methodology, but it's also for the machineries as well. So you can get patents for both. And again, although this is a technology-based business, the focus would be patents, but you need to do some planning. So that's where trademark comes in. I mean, if you look at GE, you know, everybody knows them. But then a lot of people know the name, but they do not know that GE is actually in clean tech now. They started off at in different sphere, now they moved into GE. But the word, even though GE is a new player in this sphere, but the fact that it's GE, people have confidence in them. So this is how some of the different types of IP actually adds value to the company. Yeah? So yeah. That's the end of my short presentation. This is just to give you an overview, because this is not actually a presentation session. It's supposed to be a panel discussion. So, but just to get things going, we've just given you an overview. So if anyone has any questions, we'll take them later. Yeah, we'll take them later. Thank you.
Okay. And for Dr. Jayanthi, you'll be sharing a video.
I'll start with the video.
We'll start with the video. Okay.
The Sustainability Challenge. We live, breathe, create, extract, produce, pollute, and consume. We currently use 1.5 times the capacity of the Earth each year to absorb our waste and provide renewable resources. And if we don't act by 2030, this number will be 2 planets every year. This needs to change. Change into a sustainable global economy. Sustainability. It's not only an environmental issue, it also takes into account economic and social issues. Labor practices, human rights, economic performance, community, society, corruption, corporate governance, and the responsibility of products and services. Our global economy needs to change. A sustainable global economy is not a luxury. Without a sustainable business model, environmental and social issues will continue to impact our economy and compromise our future needs. The planet and our society needs a sustainable global economy. Your organization needs it for its long-term strategy and success. How do you get started? The change to a sustainable economy requires organizational change. To drive change, You need to set goals and measure how you are progressing towards them. Sustainability reporting is a key tool to help you set goals, measure progress, and manage sustainability within your organization. Reporting on your organization's sustainability performance will give internal and external stakeholders a clearer idea of its impacts and can increase your efficiency and improve your performance. And reporting enables you to move your organization forward into a successful, sustainable future.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. Okay, now the reason for the video is twofold. One, it's afternoon after lunch, and you would have had death by PowerPoint after 2 days. And the second reason is really because when we think about sustainability, we often think it's environment, it's green. Frida and I are not wearing green by design, although or you know, that we're some eco-friendly nuts. And that kind of thinking, which connects sustainability purely to the environment, is actually a large misconception, and it leads to a lot of halfway, half-baked solutions. It's developers giving us what they call green housing, and giving us some certain eco-bling. So you have a cute little solar panel and a rainwater harvesting system, and the developer tells you, look, this is going to change your lifestyle. It's not, because it's how we produce, how we consume, how we live our lives that's going to transform. And it is those changes that new businesses are looking at. Sumah brought the example of GE, which is very interesting because GE is actually already profiting 90 billion last year from eco-imagination. They've branded their whole sustainability. Philips, the big guys are going there. The question is, if I'm a small guy, I'm a startup, and I'm a Malaysian or Asian-based company, how do I get on this domain? How do I benefit? How do I optimize? There are a lot of opportunities, obviously. I will frame my discussion with what I call the 4 C's. Please feel free to interject, and of course we can open up to questions. The first point is the context, the changing context of business, right? So what regulators are doing around the world. Regulators are expecting more transparency in terms of emissions. Synergio, for example, a large chunk of our work involves large companies, how they report, because the stock exchange requires some of this data. If you go for various certifications, or if you want to protect, you want intellectual property, you would need to show data and reporting around this. Shareholder preferences are changing. Large investors are looking increasingly at ability of companies to show not just financial sustainability, but non-financial sustainability, because essentially that means you're managing your non-financial risk, right? But again, at the end of the day, these are, some of you may say these are externalities, because if you want to just think of building a business that pleases your customers, customer preferences are, we know, volatile, they change, and people just like cute, trendy ideas, right? So if you think that you really want to transform your business, then that changing context needs to influence your business. And ultimately, the message with the changing context is profits with purpose will drive value. And it is when you have value that you can start thinking of, what do you do with that tangible, intangible value in terms of protecting, in terms of building your customer base. So you kind of flip the argument the other way. I want to, before going into the next C, which is connecting, how you connect your business in different ways, I want to share a story. Because again, when we talk about sustainability, often, well, it's just not you, or if it's just not a startup. When we go to large, for example, Malaysian GLC, and we give the example of GE, they said, but that's GE. They have, or if it's Marks and Spencer, yesterday we had top 100 leaders of sustainability around the world. It's IKEA, it's Marks and Spencer, it's GE, it's the same old companies. There are no real new companies, but there are some very exciting startups coming up and getting lots of funding. I'll talk about that shortly. But the point is, I sit on the board of a listed company that holds the franchise to Starbucks in this country, right? So Starbucks is very interesting as well, because we have fair trade, but again, it's a bit of a cute. It's not cute, but when you can show a poor Kenyan farmer and you're paying fair price, it's a great marketing strategy. It's easy for Starbucks to do it. But if you're a utilities guy, or you're a bank, it doesn't sell. So how do you build this sustainability into your business, or the whole idea of being green? There's no business case. That's what we get from our clients, and that's probably one of the main questions that you will have. So I want to tell you the story of Ray Anderson. Anybody's heard of him? Ray Anderson from Interface. Yeah. So Interface does a very unsexy business. They sell carpet tiles, right? A long time ago, this is 20 years ago, 1973, he brought carpet tiles to the US, right? In the US, they used to have, if you have a room like this, you need to put a whole load of carpet, right? So, and Europe pioneered this whole idea, like, so that you spill something, you can just replace it with a little tile. So it was a fantastic business for 20 years. Ray Anderson, I think he's from Alabama, somewhere deep south, so hardcore, strong businessman driven by numbers. But he then realized, for various reasons, he read books on ecology and commerce, and he was driven, but he was also a fantastic marketer, and he realized that, look, if I really want to take my business to the next level, Interface is the largest carpet manufacturer in the world today, and it has been for a long time. I need to really push sustainability. And if you know the carpet industry, it is an industry that's locked in fossil fuel. The carpet backing is made with plastic, right? And that's really oil and gas. It's a fossil fuel-backed industry. The next day when he went public, his main shareholders in Wall Street dumped the shares, right? It took him 20 years, 13 years for them to now have recycled carpet backing. But they've done it. And he continues to do it. He died 2011, I think. Very inspirational. You need one leader, one inspirational person to change how businesses operate and that whole business model and benefit from it. So ultimately, whatever was his driving force, he made sure his numbers were there, right? Because at the end of the day, if you are sitting in this room and saying, I'm interested in green technology because I think it's going to give me an advantage, I can sell higher, that's false. Because I'm a mom, I'm not going to buy more just because you tell me it's organic. I want to buy something that's cheaper. We have price constraints. Asian consumers are consumers anyway. So the challenges are there, but at the same time, the opportunities are huge if companies realize that they have the first mover advantage, especially in Asia, because regulation's still not quite caught up, right? So that's the context, right? And the next C that I want to go to is really in connecting. Right? So the connecting is, that's why the video was important, because just talking about environment and you park it in your property department or in procurement is not going to help. You need to manage your labor practices. You need to manage how your people, it's that whole, if you anchor that dimension in capitals, how the natural capital is connected to your human capital, to your economic capital. That's when you're building the whole ecosystem of your organization and you're unlocking value within your own organization. And that, you'll be surprised how organizations are locked in such silos, because we work with large ones, and different teams don't talk to each other. So sustainability can be very interesting because you're getting the procurement guy to talk to marketing, right? So, and how that value is added across the organization. And companies, startup companies that are working in areas that have been able to connect. So the problem with companies that are not doing well, what's not working is companies that say, I want to go and change the world, I want to work in environment, and I want to do something. But they don't actually, connect that various capitals within the organization is not working. But some very interesting startups have got huge amount of fundings. Out of San Francisco, there's Waste Ventures from San Francisco, which has been fantastic. So what they're doing is transforming waste to wealth, and working with Indian municipal councils to transform the waste, to sell the waste and convert it to methane gas, essentially. Redisa in South Africa is also working in waste. A lot of companies working in agriculture, huge agro farming, hydroponics, next big thing that's being looked at. So a lot of opportunities within the changing context and when companies are connecting within the organization. The next C, big C, will be collaborating. So Pepsi and Coke, sworn enemies, but now work together in the area of water conservation, for example. So that whole Coca-colonization is dying because we need to work together. Different industries actually add different value to your organization. The Coke journey has been quite interesting because I know a lot of people hate them, and it's quite staggering. 1 liter of Coke used to need 2.8 liters of water, right? And now you need 2.0 liters of water. But it's still staggering. So you need double the amount to make 1 liter of Coke. So the journey started with that. So we need to be more efficient. But just being more efficient is not sufficient because there's only so much you can go to zero carbon. You still need water. Right, so that's where Coke has now moved towards conservation. Coke and Pepsi are working in the Mekong Delta in the Philippines very actively in terms of water conservation. So very exciting innovation is happening in that area simply because you're not just looking at, I want to monetize on this, but it's because, again, profits with purpose and that whole notion of creating value. Right, and the final C is communicating. Ultimately, if you cannot communicate what you're achieving, your shareholders, your stakeholders will not know. And that's where, that video was useful because it shows that this is the whole spectrum of what sustainability is, but it also is about transparency, accountability, it's about data. It's a lot of work. Some companies don't want to bother going because you do need resources, you do need people to manage that data, and it does cost you as well, right? Again, Marks and Spencer, interesting company. You go now, you can say, sustainable cotton and things like that. But they have hundreds of people combing the supply chain doing this. So the question is, can a small company do it? Actually, it's entirely possible because a small company is more nimble. You don't have that bureaucratic silos. You have that, and you don't have that history, right? A lot of you see, I think you have to put things in perspective. As little as 10 years ago, Ray Anderson, 1994, that's kind of 20 years. But that whole idea of sustainability is really new for a lot of organizations. But if you go to Chevron and says that they got a green history of 200 years, it's just pure. It's not true, right? So that's a tendency for large organizations to overinflate what they've been doing. So for a new startup or a new organization, it's a real opportunity to create authentic stories and to communicate that to your consumers and build real brand value. And that's it. Questions?
I'm going to get both the ladies to sit up front.
Okay.
The thinking hard. Yes, sir.
Just want to understand Malaysia's context in terms of sustainability policy and at a national level,
Okay.
and also sustainability strategy at the business level. I'm assuming that companies are beginning to embed sustainability in corporate strategy as opposed to see it as a sideline, like a CSR project. So how much of, what would you say in those two contexts are the top 2 or 3 challenges that Malaysia faces today from a national sustainability perspective?
So in terms of policies, the Malaysian government has been really leading the way. There's a lot of incentive for governments, for companies to become green, to embark on green career paths. So if you're listed on the stock exchange, the stock exchange in fact requires companies to report on their sustainability practices. But I think the Green Tech Corporation has certain incentives, certain funding requirements, certain funding incentives, certain grants for green technology. So the ecosystem is slowly and surely coming into play. But in terms of corporations itself, the challenges are very real because climate change, for example, is not seen as the heart of corporate strategy yet. Right, so that connection hasn't been made. It slowly is with all this building blocks built by the policymakers. It is slowly coming into the sort of nerve and center of decision making. It has moved away. As little as 5 years ago, it was really seen as a cute CSR thing. So it has moved very much into strategy. But how is it being? But the opportunities for and the benefiting is slowly coming to play. So the main challenge is really understanding the context of sustainability in terms of corporate strategy. And the second challenge is really what I would say in resources, because the leadership has not, the awareness is still low, so leadership has not been able to invest in, for example, GE's Ecomagination has a huge budget, huge resources to undertake. So in order to get started, you would need a certain level of investment whether it's in people or is in terms of other resources. So that's a bit of a challenge as well.
Actually, I was trying to focus on real challenges that Malaysia faces today in a macro scale from a sustainability perspective. For example, is it the shift from fossil fuel-based energy to renewables? Is it to do with deforestation? Is it to do with water management? I mean, what would you say are the big macro challenges this country is imminently faced with, considering climate change? And then, of course, our business beginning to understand and embed that. But you've already answered the second part.
Yes.
So what you're really saying is awareness is low, leadership hasn't really gotten on to the subject and are centralizing sustainability. But macro challenges, what would you say are the big ones?
Again, in terms of the leadership, it's got a lot better. The boards are more aware. The corporate leaders are very much aware. But the biggest challenge is really fossil fuels, right? It's in terms of petrol. We are a country relying on oil and gas. And that is really where the biggest challenge the country has at the moment.
What percentage is renewable energy today?
Okay. I don't have the statistics for that. Would you have? Yeah. So, but I think personally, what I find is that the change is in mindset as well. You know, because we are conventionally used to using fossil fuel now. If you're going to convert it to clean tech and all that, cost is also a factor. And the other thing, what we are looking at is also companies, are they willing to even invest? You know, so again, change in mindset and also the willingness to adapt.
So in changing mindsets, is there something that's happening to change mindsets?
Like what Dr. Jayanthi has mentioned, I mean, a lot of awareness programs has taken place. The government is supportive. They have come out with a set of incentives to drive this. But change in mindset, it takes a while, I believe, and it happens at different levels. And maybe at the bigger corporation, at the MNC level, you know, they have deep pockets, so it's easier to implement that through their CSL. But if you compare, I mean, I'm talking about SMEs because we work a lot with SMEs. For them, you know, between CSL going into clean tech and I only have limited money with me, so what do I use it? So it's a matter of prioritization of that. So that is a big challenge as well. We talk, yes, they understand, but are they in a position to change? Yeah, that's a question which we don't have an answer to. It will, I believe, because I mean, slowly they are accepting it and they are doing something about it. But how long it will take, I'm not sure. So the change will have to be gradual.
You mentioned changing mindsets in regards to sustainability and CSR as a major focus in terms of business growth here in Malaysia and adoption. I was wondering, in your opinion, do you think Malaysia and Malaysian consumers in particular will ever come to the point of adopting something like the Scandinavian markets? Scandinavia is known for CSR and sustainability, fusing it in business practices as the forefront, prioritizing it. Could Malaysia adopt that in the next 5 to 10 years? And if so, how?
So I did mention briefly, I'm not a fan of consumer preference because it tends to be very consumers just sometimes follow trends, they're very price sensitive. But definitely consumers are moving towards greener, more eco-friendly lifestyle, and that's driving and changing products and services in the country. But the companies that will really benefit are companies that look into their core purpose and want to build profits as well as purpose and build companies with value. And if you build a company with value, consumers will come to you, whether it is a company that is on sustainable agriculture or organic farming or sustainable building material. So ultimately, it will be an ecosystem that will inform each other. But definitely, consumer trends are moving and getting better.
is that an expectation right now when you talk about sustainability and all these things that listed companies are in a way monitored in terms of this area, and so maybe with that will also move down the supply chain as well, move down the food chain, and the other people will follow suit?
Listed companies are already translating some of those policies to smaller companies. So there is an expectation if you want to get into the supply chain of, for example, Astro or Petronas, that you would comply with certain requirements at the moment. Otherwise, you'll never get into that supply chain. So it's already there. It's just that the weightage may be a bit low, but that's getting bigger and bigger as we go along.
Yes.
You touched on the consumer aspect of green technology or sustainability, but what about B2B or even in the allocation of government contracts or tenders? Is there a component of sustainability in those processes now, whereby the Malaysian government is seeking to have sustainable solutions factored into the criteria they consider when allocating a contract?
We do work with companies which don't have a B2C business at all, simply because they believe that it gives them an added advantage. These are Malaysian MNCs that it would give them an advantage to talk to other governments, because sustainable practices essentially adds value to your organization. But in terms of the Malaysian government as well, we have something called a green purchasing network that's trying to push the government to start buying more eco-friendly products, start building a more green supply chain. But that's still pending. Yeah.
But I think in the 11th Malaysia plan, under the green growth game changer, sustainable procurement is one
It's part of it, yes.
And they are beginning to help incentivize government to put something. That's what I read in the.
It definitely is. This is South Korea. Some Asian governments have really leapfrogged this agenda, because government is the biggest purchaser in the country at the moment, and if government can change that, then even simple things like paper, styrofoam will just go out of fashion, and we're all waiting for that essentially.
At least it's in there. I think.
Yes,
It's already there. It's one of the game changers.
You were saying that trying to convince the SMEs where they rather put their money, and obviously they're not thinking sustainability. They want fast results and what can be done in an ideal world to get them to change that.
Give them more money, they'll do it. No, in an ideal world, I suppose many of us can relate to small companies. We are just starting off in business. Put yourself in their shoes. I'm not defending them, because I, as far as possible, I support, I would like to go into sustainability, because I say, the way the damage we are doing to Mother Earth is just too much. It's unbearable. But, we are not living in a perfect world. We have to do some reality checks. Companies, they admit what they are doing is against the best practices. But that's the cheaper way of doing. So they said, you give us more money, then we can change our processes to become green, environmental friendly, and so on. So our hands are tied. There's not much we could do. We advocate, and then again, if there are any opportunities for change, we do highlight to them. We put them in touch with partners on our part. What we can do to help, we do. But the mindset change has to come from within.
Okay, so an organization say they're willing.
They are willing.
So what are the parties? Who are the people that you can connect them with then?
It actually depends on a case-by-case basis. Again, for instance, let us just take the instance of plastic bags, right? So we have a company called Cardia Bioplastics. They have actually come up with biodegradable plastic bags. But these plastic bags are costlier than your normal plastic bags. The bioplastic bags are way costlier. So although they had good intention, they are actually having a tough time trying to market their product. So what do you think they're going to do if they're going to sustain their business? So these are real life challenges that the companies are facing. No, we even tried that, but how much can the government buy?
A lot.
Okay, we'll talk after this then. Yeah. So I mean, this is real life. I mean, I'm just sharing real life examples so that people can actually relate to the actual position. We can have all the policies in the world, but when you're on the ground, we have our limitations as well.
The carpet story. I mean, were they profitable? I mean, it took some time as well to change, right? In terms of the conviction from the suppliers or the people they have to work with, right? Would you be able to, what kept him going? I mean, if it was a loss leader kind of a game, what do you do then?
I don't think he was quite loss-making, as he was actually one of the largest carpet manufacturers in the world. But the whole world thought he was he was crazy. There was no sustainability department at that time. He pulled in a few people who refused to work, and because they didn't know what that meant. What does it mean? People work in marketing, people work in supply chain, people work in strategy. They don't do sustainability. But what really kept him going was a belief that, look, if you want to build a business, it needs to be a business with value. He has written a fantastic book. He says that he was inspired by a book by Paul Hawkins called The Ecology of Commerce. It's a fantastic book because Paul Hawkins gives this analogy of a glass. So if you look at this glass, you can either be a pessimist if it's half full, if it's half empty, or an optimist if you're half full, okay. Or if you're a feminist, you'll say his glass is better than my glass. If you're an anarchist, we have a lot of them now, you say break the glass. So it's different perspectives, right? What sustainability really is. But for this guy, it is really creating value in my organization, and I am determined to do it. So it's that kind of, and he called this restorative practice. I need to restore what I produce and how I make. And it's reimagining 200 years of the Industrial Revolution. Right, it's a fantastic journey because we just need a few visionaries like this to change how businesses work and operate. There's lots of literature that talks about how do we really need to change how we produce. McDonough and Brunner have written fantastic books. They've informed a lot of companies today, like Ford. We can go on talking about it, but it's just that we need a few triggers. I actually am quite positive because there are loads of startups that are already thinking and talking about next generation sustainability, beyond the eco-efficiency that Corp champions. It is really transforming. In Malaysia, for example, we have BG doing things like transforming, reduce, reuse, repurpose. And these are the stepwise things that will change the climate and ecosystem.
Any questions?
Happy to ask another one if there's no
Go ahead.
questions. Okay, so for a long time the UN Millennium Development Goals were in place, and now they're going to be replaced by the Sustainable Development Goals in September. So in your opinion and from your consulting, etc., what percentage of Malaysian companies are today were engaged in the UN Millennium Development Goals, and you think therefore will be engaged in the Sustainable Development Goals that are coming forward, which becomes now mandatory reporting for all countries for the next 15 years, from 2015 to 30. I mean, a ballpark figure of your gut feel of what percentage were engaged or not engaged.
The take-up rate for the Millennium Development Goals were very low in this country. Well, a lot of the companies that took it up were really MNCs based here, so it was Nestle's and DGs of the world, simply because Malaysian companies are still very much driven by Malaysian regulators. So if the Malaysian regulator says follow this, they would adopt. That being said, the UN Global Compact, there are several other UN-related standards that have gained more traction simply because we have a local UN Global Compact chapter. So Millennium Development Goals doesn't really do much hand-holding for companies, which isn't really an excuse. But at the end of the day, the Millennium Development Goals, just to give you a background, are a set of 10 aspirational goals in terms of a company's commitment for eradication of poverty and a whole load of things. Yeah, environment and education, things like that. it doesn't mean that Malaysian companies are not adopting them. They're just not reporting, or they haven't formally become signatories. So I won't say it's the be-all or end-all of everything. Definitely under 10%. Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And likelihood for sustainable development goals?
I can't predict. It will depend on how much the regulators are pushing. Yeah, I think Malaysia, it's just not Malaysia, it's sort of Southeast Asia. We're very much driven by our regulators, and the Singapore Stock Exchange has been a bit more proactive. They're going to make it compulsory, mandatory sustainability reporting. That's going to drive more UN-related standards in Singapore in the next 3 years. The Malaysian regulators would rather use a more carrots and sticks approach. We have now... I always try to be more positive, glass half full kind of person. The Environmental Social Governance Index, right? So a lot of companies, there's more interest because what they're trying to do is saying, look, instead of just anchoring your standards in aspirational goals, you would want to drive investor interest. So that's quite exciting, actually.
Sumah, that story that you shared with us, that case study you shared with us, those kind of stories, are they few and far between, or are they a lot of companies, by default, by accident, have become environmentally friendly, through their business? Are there a lot of these companies around at the moment in Malaysia?
Okay, again, it depends on which sphere, whether they are coming from the healthcare, agriculture, or environmental, right? So, again, it all boils down to the company's vision and mission. I mean, what is it that they intend to achieve? So, we have some companies in the industrial sector who's going towards biofuel, green tech and all that. So for companies in that sector, yes, their focus would be towards sustainability. But for the others, not so much. While they try to inculcate best practices, but whether that would be their utmost priority, that I can't answer.
Dr. Jayanthi, one of the things is that also sustainability is always seen as something that the big boys and the MNCs from the West have brought in. Now, what's your view about that?
I think I've mentioned this in passing just now, that small companies, it's a fantastic opportunity, sustainability, because you don't have that heritage, you don't have that bureaucracy, you don't have the lethargy that large companies do. You can innovate very quickly, very fast. There's a lot of interest in terms of how small companies can benefit from sustainability, whether it's an SME or a startup. And there's a lot of buzz out of Silicon Valley for clean tech financing. So it's very exciting, actually. It's a very exciting time to be doing clean technology, because it's waiting, and it's not Tesla, okay? It's just not Tesla or hydrogen fuel cells or whatever. It can be a lot of things, very prosaic things like waste, which I think, I was speaking last year at the Global Economic Summit, and The Guardian mentioned that the next person to discover what to do with waste is going to be the next Rockefeller. Because we have so much waste. We have, Asia's 7 billion, and the world population continues. So a lot of opportunities for smaller and startups,
Is anyone here in that space?
Waste wealth.
One meat is another, the treasure.
Trash.
One's trash is another man's treasure. Any more questions? If not, any parting words you'd like to share with us? I'm not going to make you stay on.
I think I just really want to reiterate this whole notion of profits with purpose, because fundamentally that's what creates value, and it's not easy, because sometimes you're seeing going against the grain, whether you're a large organization or a small organization. Sumah talked about SMEs that say they just can't, but if you can, and if you push that boundaries, it is really reimagining a lot of political barriers, legal barriers sometimes, and saying, look, I am still going to do this. I am going to, the Companies Act was amended 10 years ago to require directors to have responsibility to the environment now in the UK. We're still waiting for our amendments in Malaysia, just to give you an idea of where we are. All right, so that's 150 years of company law. Oh, is that time up? Okay, but the idea is, it's like music. Yeah. So basically, if companies manage to grab the opportunity now, there's a lot to benefit.
Just before Sumah goes on, the triple bottom line of profits, people, and planet, for a woman who sees the glass as half full, when do you think it'll become mainstream in Malaysia? I know we're talking about all these things in place, but do you see this in your lifetime? When. Yeah.
Definitely. I have kids. It better be. Yeah. No, I think technology is going to really make a difference. And of course, technology is really influenced by how we think, and how we think is constantly changing. I'm very positive we're going to see a much better world, better companies, profits with purpose.
All right. Sorry, Sumah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have much to add on to what Dr. Jayanthi has already said. In terms of sustainability or anything else for that matter, I mean, whatever we do, I think we should have this a higher purpose in mind, do it for the betterment or for the well-being of mankind, right? So that whether it's business practice or regulatory practice, I mean, that should be the ultimate goal.
All right, you can play that song now. Anyway, the ladies, I'm sure, will be here for you to stay and chat, because typical Malaysian style, you try to grab them, when we've all left, and you have that one-on-one conversation. Thank you, ladies, Dr. Jayanthi, Sumah, for sharing with us. And, we're going to conclude back in the ballroom at 3:25. I think in the meantime, we can have some coffee to wake you up and some more food. So we'll see you there. Thank you again, ladies. And, here's on to triple bottom line, yeah? Thank you.